Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Switch gears and kind of do a little bit of a follow-up from a story that we talked about last weekend here on the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. And when I say last weekend, I mean like 4 or 5 days ago, not 10, 11 days ago, neither here nor there. With that said, though, one thing that we did talk about here on the channel, Saturday morning, I got up early, and it had to do with some of our favorite topics on this channel. Recruiting, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, Colorado, Cormani McClain, the #1 recruit in America that is uncommitted in the class of 2023, and the #1 cornerback available, period, okay? And so on Saturday, I gave you an update. It was a really kind of fascinating moment in time for Coach Prime, Colorado, Cormani McClain, because here is what we knew as of Saturday morning. We were pretty certain that Cormani McClain was at Colorado. Again, Cormani McClain, I think everybody listening to this knows, but the #1 corner in high school football, the #1 uncommitted player in all of high school football, class of 2023. He'll be playing college football next year. He had been committed to Miami, did not sign on National Signing Day. And that was the first time that we heard, hey, Coach Prime might be making another move. He might be convincing this kid to get out of his Miami commitment and come to Colorado. And so on Saturday, this is what we kind of talked about. We knew, or we thought, that he was at Colorado. Multiple reports put him there. Miami's entire coaching staff went to his high school that day to kind of try to sway him. Hey, you don't need to get on a plane. Everything you need is right here in Florida. Just one problem. He was not there. And then late Friday night, 2 recruiting writers, one who covers Miami, one who covers Florida, both put in crystal balls for Cormani McClain to Colorado. And so that's where we left it. That's where we last saw it. But a couple things happened after that. One, there was mixed conversation about whether Cormani McClain was actually even on Colorado's campus for half a minute, which we'll get into in a second. And the second thing was the belief was that Cormani McClain was going to recommit to another college by Sunday. That did not happen. So it feels like now is a good time for an update. But what I'll tell you is this: there are still enough, even since we last recorded, there are still enough little odds and ends and stories and quotes, a couple very interesting quotes, as a matter of fact, that make me believe that Cormani McClain will eventually be a Colorado Buffalo. He eventually will go to Boulder to play for Coach Prime. And so where this story kind of really picks up from where I last left you was really Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, where we weren't totally 100% sure that Cormani McClain was on Colorado's campus. And here's why. Like any great recruiting story, listen, I don't obviously know Cormani. I assume that he wanted this a little bit undercover. And so when the reports start to get out, oh yeah, this kid's at Colorado right now, he goes and does what everybody does in 2023, hops on social media and drops a pin for himself in Tampa, Florida, basically saying, oh, you guys think I'm at Colorado. I'm actually in Tampa doing my thing, whatever. Now, nobody's really heard from Cormani. We don't really know what's going on. So I don't know whether it was to have fun with people or he legitimately did not want people to know that he was at Colorado. But by late Saturday into Sunday, we kind of figured out that the jig was up, if you will, the gig, however you say it, the gig was up, whatever. Point being, Deion Sanders' son, Deion Sanders Jr., obviously runs the social media for Colorado. They put a few clips on Twitter with pictures that sort of look like Cormani, and then they took them down, but not for very long. YouTube thumbnails, whatever. Anyway, by late Sunday, Cormani McClain had posted pictures on Instagram that are still up as I record here on Wednesday afternoon of him at Colorado, him posing with Coach Prime. And so at the very least, we know he was at Colorado. The big question becomes this, though. Despite being at Colorado, despite multiple crystal balls coming in for Cormani McClain, he did not commit to Colorado. And so I think everybody's kind of now looking for the update here to try and figure out, okay, what is actually going on with this recruitment? And what I can tell you is I saw 2 very interesting quotes from two very interesting sources of information that lead me to believe that Cormani McClain will eventually be a Colorado Buffalo. So who are those players exactly? Well, let's fast forward to this week, because this week there is yet another high school All-American game being played. It's the Polynesian Bowl. Listen, we had the Under Armour game. We had the U.S. Army All-American game a few days ago, but the Polynesian Bowl is going on. And what was interesting was there were recruits there that are both committed and signed to Miami, committed and signed to Colorado, and they are singing very different praises on where they are at right now with Cormani McClain. Again, Cormani McClain obviously is not playing in this event, but reporters did ask these two guys and listen to the difference in the two quotes between these two players. So the first one, Francis Maigoa, 5-star offensive tackle committed to Miami. Remember, Cormani McClain originally committed to Miami. He was asked about Cormani McClain. Here is what he had to say. Very revealing quote. Said, "I haven't been talking to Cormani lately. I'm just hoping for the best for him. If he chooses to stay with us, then that will be awesome. If he chooses Colorado or any other school, then I hope what's best for him. He's been silent lately. He's just doing his own thing. I kind of give him his own space so he can figure stuff out on his own." Well, what I would say about that is this. First of all, credit Francis Maigoa is going to be a great college football player. This is not a criticism of him. Is Cormani McClain being radio silent, or is he just being radio silent to you? Because Amarion Miller, a 4-star wide receiver, is also at that event. And Amarion Miller was asked the same question about Cormani McClain and what his future is and if it's going to be at Colorado. Here is what Amarion Miller said. He said, "I think we, as in Colorado," because remember, he's committed to Colorado, "I think we're sitting pretty good right now," kind of gave a smile when asked to follow up whether he believes Cormani McClain is a lock to end up at Colorado. Amarion Miller said, "Yeah, I think so." And so why I bring this up, why I feel like this is worthy of an update, it's pretty straightforward in my opinion, okay? In my opinion, this is worthy of an update because this isn't some, listen, I want to be abundantly clear here. I have nothing but respect for recruiting writers. It's a really hard gig. Tracking the whims and moment-to-moment thought process of high school players, let alone thousands of them in any given recruiting cycle, it's not easy. Those guys and girls do an incredible job. This is not a criticism of them. But it is one thing to hear reports from different reporters, oh, he could be there, maybe he's going to go there, maybe he's not. And then it's quite another to hear from two of Cormani McClain's peers who it appears as though he kind of has more normal communication with, right? Recruiting writers, a little bit older, probably doesn't really want to respond to their texts or their DMs or however they're communicating. Young kids, that's how they communicate. Text, DM, social media, Instagram, on the phone, whatever. And so the fact that it sounds like Francis Maigoa at some point had a reasonably good communication line to Cormani McClain and that dried up, that doesn't sound normal unless Cormani McClain is purposely trying to avoid that conversation. Again, I'm not criticizing an 18-year-old kid. This is a life decision that he's got to do what's best for him. This is not a criticism of him either. But the fact that communication is dried up, the fact that Amarion Miller, it seems as though the communication is flowing just well between Colorado and the Polynesian Bowl in Hawaii, it leads me to believe that Cormani McClain will officially be a Colorado Buffalo at some point. It is worth noting again, before the end of his trip to Colorado, he not only took pictures of the Coach Prime, not only took pictures in the snow of Colorado, but he also posed with his family with other families of Colorado recruits and Colorado commits. Finally, what I would say is, listen, once Cormani McClain does commit, we will have an update on this show. There's no doubt about it. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. But at the same time, why this is so interesting to me is for one simple reason. Coach Prime is putting together a hell of a first group of players that's going to run through that tunnel for Colorado in early September. And let me take it a step further. Colorado's schedule actually came out on Wednesday, and boy, oh boy, they have a tough opening couple weeks. They open at TCU, who's obviously coming off a college football playoff appearance, Nebraska at home the following week, and then by the middle of October, how about this? At Oregon, USC at home, and then at Arizona State. So it's not going to be easy, but I've seen a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter who Coach Prime has. They're going 4-8, 3-0. Do you think so? Have you seen what Coach Prime has done? Especially if he adds Cormani McClain. Now, I know Cormani McClain, freshman, one player, isn't going to be a be-all, end-all. But think about some of the names that Coach Prime has added to this roster. And we've talked about them before, but we've had a few new ones since the last time I updated you. Jordan Dominic, who was a great SEC defensive lineman at Colorado. He committed to, or at Arkansas, excuse me. He committed to Colorado the other day. That's on top of all the other guys that I've told you about. On defense, Travis Hunter, we know his name. Miles Slusher, safety that played at Arkansas for multiple years. We know his name. Couple All-Americans from Jackson State are coming in. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we know about Shedeur Sanders. We know about Kavasier Smoke, the running back from Kentucky, who had a couple really nice seasons at Kentucky. We know about some of the other guys that I've mentioned as well in terms of the high school ranks. Dylan Edwards, 4-star, was committed to Notre Dame, coming to Colorado to play for Coach Prime. Amarion Miller, I just mentioned, was committed to Nebraska, coming to Colorado to play for Coach Prime. Now you potentially add Cormani McClain to that mix. I'm just telling you, listen, I'll be real. I always keep it real on this channel. I'm not saying that I'm not going to give you a promise on January 18th of what I think Colorado's record is going to be. They still have a lot of work to do on their roster, and I guarantee you everybody else is going to do work between now and September as well. Players will transfer after the offseason. Freshmen will get to campus. Some will be ahead. Some will be behind. Spring ball is going to happen. But I bring it up to say, if you think Colorado's going 3-9, you have not been paying attention to what Coach Prime has done. And I think by the time it's all done, by the time they walk out of the tunnel in week 1 against TCU in Dallas, in Coach Prime's hometown, you think he's not going to be fired up to play TCU, a place we know he interviewed for that job before they gave it to Sonny Dykes? I'm just telling you, don't underestimate Coach Prime. And I think Cormani McClain is the next to jump on board. Listen, do me a favor. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel. You can click the little black subscribe button wherever it is on your screen. Make that happen for me. Also, full episodes of the Aaron Torres Podcast, wherever you get podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. And thank you to our presenting sponsor, the Betfred Sportsbook.